Good day, good day. This is James Brewster from jamesbrewster.com. This is part two of five of how to read the news. And last time we got into a little bit an article from Business Insider, which had this chart. Again, I'll continue to leave links to all articles in the description for each video. But we reviewed this chart, which showed where along the political or ideological spectrum each news source lies. Some are more conservative, some are more liberal. The term I've heard recently also is progressive. But yeah, you've got to know, number one, what source you're looking at so that you know how to interpret what they say. Second, you've got to do a little bit of work because in the old days, yeah, it used to be you could read the news and you could be reasonably sure that they were just reporting. But now they get into forecasting, they get into more interpretation, and if you, I was reminded of this quote attributed to Mark Twain, and Denzel Washington quoted this as well fairly recently. So if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you're misinformed. And this it's sad that with news these days you have to really do some work because you don't want to be uninformed. You want to know what's going on in the world. You want to know how things or news or governments are going to affect your business, your industry, your life, how you raise your kids. So you want to be informed, but you have to be careful or you run the risk of being misinformed. So we're gonna take a look at how to read news articles, and I've got a what I'm going to do here. I'm going to quickly go over articles from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. So we're going to look at a few things. Now, when you're looking at news, you're going to want to look at a few things. Number one, of course, the title. And the reason for looking at the title, I'll make this bit bigger. Reason for looking at the title, the title in general will give you a pretty good overview of what's going to be covered. So that if the title says, hey, we're going to talk about President Trump, and then they spend all the time talking about President Trump's hair, you know, okay, this isn't an article that I want to look at. Number two, read the first one or two read the first one or two paragraphs because you want to get a baseline of, hey, how are they introducing the story? What are they going to talk about? Again, you'll usually pick up, again, where does the writer fall along the political spectrum? Usually the first one or two paragraphs are going to tell you where he or she is coming from. Third, you want to read the last one or two paragraphs. So reading the last one or two paragraphs will also bring out a couple things because often I've seen a lot of articles where they start out talking about one thing and in one example it was supposed to be a news story but it was more opinion. And very deep in the article towards the end the facts came out and they were disguised a little bit but they were still there. So sometimes the article will change between the first and last paragraphs because sometimes they'll actually get into the facts, sometimes they'll get away from the facts. Also, lastly, the last paragraph will usually contain a decent conclusion. So again, especially if the writer is going off on a tangent or is really looking at, okay, is giving more opinion than fact, the last paragraph will tell you, hey, what's the author or the writer's conclusion. And usually, if you can go through the title, first one or two paragraphs, last one or two paragraphs, and again see what the conclusion says, at that point, like if the article is total trash, or you just don't agree with it, or you just don't want to put up with it, usually by doing that you can see where you want to go and whether or not you want to read the article, rather than just subjecting yourself to the whole thing and then thinking, well, that wasn't worth it, or I don't like the conclusion of the writer at all, the writer's conclusion at all. So, yeah, this has been a good guideline for me, and we're going to take a look at a few right now. And I've looked at this first one, but the two that we're going to go into, not necessarily in depth, but these last two I have not really read. So now, CNN gives Omarosa the cold shoulder. Okay, interesting. So is Omarosa banned from CNN? And then the controversial former White House staffer and ex-Donald Trump crony has been hawking her book. So controversial White House staffer and ex-Donald Trump crony. Crony is usually a negative term, but also hawking her book. This, I'm like, wow, no love lost here. Let's go to the last paragraph. CNN declined to comment. Another source that CNN. Okay, so we're booking commentators who would trash talk the reality show Vixen. Usually, this is kind of all over the spectrum a little bit. Usually, if and I'll just call it as I see it, CNN has no love lost for President Trump, and some people would again agree, some would disagree. Now, why are we talking about, trash talking? Usually, in a lot of and this is on both sides of the spectrum, no one really likes President Trump. This is, again, no love lost on either side, Republicans or many Republicans and most Democrats. But, why would CNN not want to have Omarosa on the show if she could potentially bring up something that would put President Trump, in a bad light? So, and again, there's not really a lot of information here. This is, a little bit, it's almost as if someone wrote the article just to write the article. This is kind of like what I did in college, where, hey, you've got to write this paper. Okay, let me come up with something that's just enough so I can avoid getting a bad grade. Or in this case, hey, it's like someone told this guy, hey, you need to produce an article, or you're not going to get paid this week. Okay, let me put something together. There's not really much here, so we're just going to close that because, not really very informative. And it's not a long article, but you could see I could quickly glance at it and tell, do I really want to put a lot of stock into this? No. So we're going to take the New York Times article first. So this has been news that's broken within the past few days. Michael Cohen says he arranged payments to women at President Trump's direction. So, there's a lot with this situation, and whether you like President Trump or don't like him, this is pretty big news. So, all right, Michael D. Cohen, President Trump's former lawyer, made the extraordinary admission in court on Tuesday that President Trump had directed him to arrange payments to two women during the 2016 campaign to keep them from speaking publicly about affairs they said they had with Mr. Trump. Okay, so, and then of course he's acknowledging that the illegal payments, acknowledged legal payments while pleading guilty to breaking campaign finance laws. That revealed both his shadowy involvement in Trump's circle and his own corrupt business dealings. So right away you can tell that, again, this is still reading a little bit more like a news article, but shadowy involvement, corrupt business dealings, that's a little bit more opinion and it could be fact too. I mean, if you're breaking laws, then your business dealings could be corrupt, but you can kind of tell where along the spectrum New York Times is, i.e. liberal. But everyone has an opinion, everyone has a lean or a bent, so this doesn't necessarily turn me off. I might continue with the article. So I'm going to go down now. This you can see. This is we have several videos, charts. So just by scanning this, I can tell that there's again, New York Times may be liberal, but there's been a lot of work that's been put into this. So this, I can tell right away, okay, this might be something I want to read. So one collateral effect of Mr. Cohen's plea arrangement is that it may allow Mr. Avenatti, Miss Clifford's lawyer, to proceed with a deposition of Mr. Trump in a lawsuit that Miss Clifford filed accusing the president of breaking a non-disclosure agreement concerning their affair. The lawsuit had been stayed by a judge pending the resolution of Mr. Cohen's criminal case. Mr. Avenatti wrote on Twitter on Tuesday that he would now seek to force Mr. Trump to testify under oath about what he knew, when he knew it, and what he did about it. Now this is a little bit interesting because I know in fairly recent news that there was actually action taken, I think, by Mr. Trump's legal team against Miss Clifford because she broke terms of the confidentiality agreement. Now we're seeing that, well, he broke, I mean, did he say too much just by saying that she broke the confidentiality agreement? Did he break the confidentiality agreement? So there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of he said, she said in this one, quite literally. And I don't know how they're going to sort this out or what's going to happen. But again, right off the bat, just by reading the title, first two paragraphs, last two paragraphs, and just scanning the article and on all the work put into it, I think this seems to be an in-depth article, and this would be, yeah, between the videos, the images, the charts here. Um, I think I think this would be an article worth reading, even if you don't agree with. I mean, there's stuff in here about how, hey, um, President Trump said he didn't know anything about these payments, but if he directed Mr. Cohen to make those payments, then obviously he knew about it. So, regardless of where New York Times stands politically, this would be, yeah, and this is kind of all over the place here, but yeah, this would be an article that I would read. So let's go to the Wall Street Journal. So, all right, so Michael Cohen pleads guilty, says Trump told him to pay off women. Trump's longtime fixer implicates president as he enters guilty plea on 8 counts. So, yeah, 8 counts, not a good thing. So, and as you can see, this has been getting a lot of traffic as well. Over 4,800 comments as of right now. So, all right. Michael Cohen, the president's former personal lawyer, told a federal judge that Donald Trump had directed him during the 2016 campaign to buy the silence of two women who said they had affairs with Mr. Trump. Mr. Cohen made the statement as he pled guilty Tuesday to 8 criminal charges, including campaign finance violations, and he said he paid $130,000 to adult film actress Stephanie Clifford, known professionally as Stormy Daniels, and coordinated a $150,000 payment by the publisher of National Enquirer to former Playboy model Karen McDougal. Can't talk this morning. Stormy Daniels, not the best stripper name. I think like if there was a hurricane, I would expect to see the name Stormy Daniels, but I'm digressing here. So seems like there are going to be a lot of facts in this article, a lot of hey, what happened, a lot of actual reporting, not necessarily opinion. So this would be an article that I might read. So we're going to scan, and we have a couple videos, and this is quite the article as well. So usually if you're just going to have off the wall opinion pieces, it's not going to be quite this much. But yeah, pretty not maybe not quite as in depth and detailed as the New York Times article, but still something worth reading. So, all right, here we go. So, Mr. Trump was aboard Air Force One on his way to West Virginia when he said was set to hold a rally Tuesday evening as Mr. Cohen entered his guilty plea and prosecutors announced the charges. At the time, at the same time, a jury in Alexandria, Virginia returned a guilty verdict on 8 charges against Mr. Manafort. So someone else connected or in President Trump's inner circle. Disembarking Air Force One on Tuesday, the president defended Mr. Manafort but declined to answer questions about his former lawyer. So we have a lot of stuff happening around President Trump, but President Trump declining to answer questions. So either, I guess you could infer that either he's been told to keep quiet, and if he didn't do anything wrong, let's just say, it might be better if he just keeps his mouth shut than firing off tweet storms like he kind of does. Either that, or he's been told not to say anything because it could do more harm than good. So right off the bat, not really much of a conclusion here other than the president saying, meh, not going to comment. But overall, this still might be something I would read also. So those are examples of these. Now, these are regular news stories. These are not editorials or opinion pieces. We'll get into those in part 3. And we'll see how this goes. So if you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so that YouTube will notify you when I upload future videos. Again, I'll upload these once a week, just to space them out. And definitely comment, ask questions down below, and I will see you all again soon.